He'd sent letters out to all the pottery, all the schools that had potteries in them, all the people who made pots, all the people who had students, everywhere. He'd saturated the area.
And the hall was full.
With publicity to say what was happening and calling people together, because he was so fed up with the education that was being offered to these good students that he had. They didn't care about their older students, and they were day students who used to come in. They weren't studying for exams, which seemed to be what they wanted them to study. They just wanted to progress making pots. It was bursting out. He did. He said to his friend, "You're going to be the treasurer. You're going to be the the secretary. You're going to be the chairman." And we met in a pub, and that's how they started. Literally, that's how they started.
And what did you do, Dorley?
I was a taxi driver.
Yes.
And Mervyn said, "I think there's going to be a meeting of potters to set up some kind of guild." And I said, "Oh yeah." So he said, "Are you coming?" I said, "Oh, I suppose I will." He said, "Mick's going to be there." And of course I knew about Mick because of Mervyn being in his pottery class.
Mick who?
Cousin? Is there another one?
So when did you first join the DCPG?
1975, I couldn't remember. 1975, yeah.
What drew you to them?
Well, I was teaching in an FE college at the time, and I was probably 4 years out of having done my teacher training and my art college training, and there was very little information to be had extra to what I already knew. And so the fact that there was the guild there with all these people of like mind was really quite exciting. So there were so many people there, they just couldn't get into the building. They were all outside, you know, trying to push to get in and couldn't, and it was bursting, absolutely bursting. So yeah, it was generated quite a lot of excitement. Murray Fieldhouse clearly was there because he had organised it. Victor Margery from the Crafts Council was there, as far as I remember, and the fact that Mick Casson was there was really a big pull, because such a lovely man, but a brilliant potter too.
Well, when the guild got going, they wanted to build a kiln, and they built a wood-fired kiln down the bottom of our drive, because we have an orchard and we don't have neighbours, so it doesn't matter, the smoke. So they built a wood-fired kiln there. Then later on they built a soda kiln further up the drive, and I was given a caravan, which was being thrown away. And
Like you do.
they said, "Do you want a caravan?" And I said, "Well, actually, yes." It would be that. And so we had this falling down caravan, which was nice because the guild could use it as a sort of tea base and all the rest of it, and a shelter. And then they built a soda kiln. Paul was involved in that, building a soda kiln, gas-fired.
And the other memorable one was going to Northfields to the soda kiln. I hadn't got a clue about soda kilns. I'd never experienced anything like that. And I know Roz was leading it with Mark. I can't remember his last name. But anyway, and Colin was there, and they were all doing things that you had to do with the gas. And then we, at that right moment, we put the salt in. Oh, it wasn't salt, it was soda. And yes, so that was very memorable. It was a lovely day, but it was memorable because Northfield was quite important because it was the home of Murray and Dorley Fieldhouse. And Murray was still alive actually at the time. And it was just a magical place to be in again. And I remember when we opened it, the kiln, when it had cooled down, Murray came out and to see the results, and he brought a bottle of champagne. I think this is what he used to do, you know, when the openings were happening.
So David, tell us what you've built.
Well, we started off by building the platform to work on, and then we moved the shed that was donated to us by Coam. We made some steps up to it, and then I constructed this wood store. And it's all made from stuff that we've got from mostly from my neighbours. Hence the bathroom door. And from there on, we're going to put the next one where this kiln is here, so that we don't have to carry kilns up and down steps. We can just sort of roll them in. So that should be ready for the next firing in February, March or something. We made a cover roof for the wood kiln, just to keep it dry, which is always a challenge. That's about it, really.
Look at your bench.
Ah, David's bench, of course.
Bench, very important, David's bench.
Yes.
Right,
Made-
tired potters to sit on.
Yes. Substantial bench.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
I have my own studio and things, but I've always been interested in wood firing. So I joined the Dacorum Potter because I just love hearing what other people are doing and the inspiration you get from listening to the people, the speakers, but also all the colleagues. I mean, people have shared so many helpful tips with me over the time I've
When
been a
did you
member.
join us?
Only about 18 months ago, so yeah, early 23 it would have been.
Oh, that's lovely.
And then in 23 I went on a course at Oxford, the wood firing kiln, because I've done some work at Oxford, and I went on an away day, and I hadn't even realised they had the anagammas and the kilns there, but they do a course on these fast fire kilns, these or backyard kilns as they're sometimes called. I decided it would be lovely to make one, and I had this idea I would do it at home, but then I came along to help at a Terrific Tuesday with Judy, and I mentioned about the kiln, and she said, "Oh, come with me," and she brought me down to the kiln site and showed me all the bricks that had come from Boxmoor, and just said, well, we did have an anagamma, but actually people don't really want to stay up for 3 nights, they don't want to camp, and it's all, some of us are at a certain age. So that kind of gave me the idea to build the wood kiln, and there was a group of people coming here down to do raku, and people were interested, so I had an amazing team of people, and we kind of just built the kiln. So it took us probably 2 days to build the kiln.
Yeah.
And we basically followed the model that I'd been shown at Oxford pretty closely. The idea is it's probably the smallest size you can build and get up to temperature. And we had our first firing actually about this time in
Yeah, it was
23,
winter.
December 23, and actually we had a pretty successful firing.
It was good. I think the first
And when my kids got old enough that I could leave them on a Friday night, I did eventually join the guild. For the few years before that, I went only to pod because it was on a Saturday and I could go. And in my very first pod, Potter's Open Day, there were these 2 chaps in charge of the whole event, little fellas. They all seemed, the potters were all little fellas with beards, and they wore smocks. My eyes were open, and they were all called Murray and Mervyn, and there were loads of them. And anyway, one of the demonstrators was a Mick Casson, and he stole my heart away. He brought on a large pot, half made, already prepared and a little bit dry, and then he threw the top half, and then he tried to put them together. And he was talking a lot. So he didn't take a lot of notice of what he was doing, really. So we had well over 200 people in the theatre for those days for pod, and we were all banked up. It was a proper little theatre at the Rudolf Steiner School in King's Langley. And 200 and something people just held their breath while this wobbly top went round and round and round, and we thought, oh my God, is it going to stay up? And of course it did. And Mick could talk, and he was a very good teacher, and he said one thing that really resonated for me and really helped me in my city and guilds, because I was struggling with this idea of design, having not done anything like that in my entire life. And he said, making is part of design. And that was it. I was all right.
Before,
I got through.
Ross contacted me and asked me if I'd be president, which was a bit of a shock, really. I'm not presidential material, really, but I did ask what was involved, and she said nothing. I said, okay, that's all right. I don't have to do anything. I'll be president and do nothing. But I'm afraid I'm not like that. I like to get my fingers stuck in and do things, make things happen. First of all, it was about 10 years ago when I came back into the fold, so to speak. And the people that were organising it, Ronnie and John Powell, were wanting to offload it because they'd done quite a few years at it. And it becomes quite a challenge to keep inventing the wheel again. And no one would come forward to take it over from them. And because I had had a bit of experience inviting potters to come talk with my students, and also as a member of Milton Keynes Pottery. No, it wasn't Milton Keynes Pottery at all. Milton Keynes Craft Guild, we'd organised some things there. I just felt that I could do it, and I enjoyed doing it. I quite liked meeting the potters and talking to them. And yeah, it was good. I quite enjoyed it. But then I also felt I had to make a couple of changes. And I just wondered if it would work for the guild if we introduced the lecture, because in a sense it's more challenging. And some of the people that I've invited haven't been your average potters. They've been people who seem to, their work challenges you more than just being thrown pots or anything. The concepts that are involved in what they're doing is challenging. And sometimes it's been the lecture that's been more exciting than the demonstrations, which I find really interesting. And one was with Magdalena Redondo, who I was really pleased to get hold of. She did the lecture, and Yitka Palmer did a demo, and Yitka had some beautiful, absolutely beautiful sketchbooks which she showed everybody, and they were to die for. I mean, she could have sold them as artworks in themselves. And it was the year of the woman when women were being celebrated, and so I had Magdalena, Yitka Palmer, and Lisa Hammond demonstrating on the wheel, because it's good to see a woman who can throw quite strongly on the wheel. But it was really between Magdalena and Yitka. Magdalena had given her lecture, which was stunning, and Yitka was demonstrating on her bowl, painting. The bowl is here. This is the very same bowl, and she had this bowl upside down in front of her and was painting it from the audience. And so what you have here is Magdalena, and somewhere lurking around is Lisa Hammond. So there's Lisa Hammond. They were sitting on the front row of the audience, and she was merrily painting this whilst in conversation with Magdalena and the rest of the audience, and they had a really, really exciting conversation going on.
Also, the guild is so good at sharing. They share so much, and they take part in, they do that hand building at St Albans and include lots of people there, and Children Open Air Museum. They're including again a lot of people there.
The Boxmoor event as well.
And I think it's becoming an organisation that people can ask, who are looking for something. How do I find out about this or that or the other? Who knows about this particular clay? Is there somebody in the guild that could help me with that? And I think it's becoming more like that, isn't it? That the people in the guild are helping each other and not saying, oh, well, I'll tell you, but you need to pay me so much money for it. Everybody, I mean, when Murray started it, nobody got paid anything for producing the guild. They all did it in their spare time, with their spare money, whatever. And they needed to get money to hire the halls and things like that, and to pay the people who came. And when the people first came, they didn't pay them very much. But now I think you do. You pay them good money to come, which is right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so how did you get involved with the socials then? Because you are literally the person that does wonderful trips and what glorious get-togethers.
During the demos on the Fridays at the King's Langley Church, I felt it was always a bit of a rush. You know, people would come in, try and find a seat, and although it was a little bit of chatting, people tended to go into their groups that they knew, and so the new members coming in, or people who don't regularly come, don't get a chance to connect. And so I thought, oh, let's try, you know, the socials, and it sort of, I think it works quite well during the day. It's during the day mainly. I think we've had one evening one which was most successful, but it means that people get to know one another and also share lots of top tips and questions about their pots, and we've had, you know, a lot of connections there and people helping one another out, which is brilliant. It's a lovely crowd of people to, you know, be with, to work with, to and that, I think, it's a community really. And I think it's such a positive community now.
It is.
And I'd always been interested in museums of ancient pots, from Greek and Mycenaean and so on. And I thought, yes, I like those. I want to do something like that. So I started making things like casseroles you could put in the oven.
Right.
And this went on for quite a long time, and I found I liked the feel of pottery, and I decided it was going to be my life, which it was for the next few years.
Lovely.
And I joined the Dacorum and Chiltern Potters Guild.
Wow.
So I enjoyed a relationship with the guild, and continued to work with them and do exhibitions as you did those days in all sorts of places, all over the place, carting your work around. It was fun. They gave me opportunities to work with on exhibitions.
Around 2010, 2011, 12, something like that, and it was completely by accident through a mutual friend who got me to go and see Mike and Elizabeth Strange's work. They had a leaflet about the guild, so I went to a guild meeting, and God knows how I then finished up being chair. And it wasn't long after that I did the first exhibition and all that kind of. The first exhibition was in the town hall in St Albans, in the courthouse, and when I unpacked my stuff and saw everybody else's stuff, I just burst out crying because I was so ashamed of the quality of my work. And but it was in the first half hour I sold one of my sculptures, and I was so thrilled because I'd never ever
Validation.
sold a pot, and I'd never exposed myself in that way, you know. And then I got involved with Audrey and Judy in organising, because that's how I am. Then when the town hall closed, we had to try and find somewhere else, and it just happened that Kingsbury Barn had been renovated, so I went to have a look. After Audrey and Judy persuaded me to get involved, I helped them organise that first exhibition at Kingsbury Barn, and it's a really strong feature of the DCPG year, I think.
Mervyn, who was the editor as well as the chair and everything else, got a bit fed up with doing all the writing in the newsletter. So he put out an item in the newsletter to say there's a prize in this beautiful book, and it was a brand new book that had been gifted for review purposes by the publisher. And it was on garden pots, and I've got it down there. And it was a prize for anybody who wrote anything for the newsletter. Wow. So I thought, well, I've written all this clobber for Minder City and Guilds, and I pulled out one item on William de Morgan. And I gave that to Mervyn. He put it in the newsletter, and I got the book. And somehow I found myself on the committee straight away. And I wasn't just the tea lady by any means. I found that I was the programme organiser and had to write quite a lot for the newsletter. So every job comes with an add-on. But there were only about 6 or 7 people on the committee, so there was a lot to do. And I've never got off. It's probably time I was tempted off, but it would have to be a bloody good book because I'm enjoying it too much. This was the very first one of the new design, the A5 size, that designed by Bippin. So it was really innovatory. So beautifully laid out, and really we haven't changed the format very much at all.
Well, Duncan Hewson did one of the key talks at Pod, and I was so excited at what he was talking about, getting young, because I had a background in special needs, and getting these youngsters with special needs involved with clay and getting the public involved with clay. And so I went to Greenwich Peninsula, one of the events that they did, and it was building HMS Belfast. And it looked nothing like HMS Belfast, I have to say, when I got there. But what I did pick up from that was how they did it.
The first big build was in the town hall, in the assembly room, which was this delightful, clean, beautiful chandeliered room, but it in plastic on the floor. And then we had buildings from St Albans. Yeah. It was a huge event, and I think there were 900 visitors that came on that particular day up the stairs, and created these amazing buildings.
And then the following year we were asked to get involved in a Roman celebration with St Albans Abbey, and so we did we built the cathedral, and it was just such a stunning thing to do because we had it on 7 6x3 tables, and we just pushed it all together at the end, and it was such a spectacular moment. It was breathtaking, really, and great for the members because they had the chance to step up to a challenge, and great for the public because even families, 3 generations of families working on it together, people in suits getting themselves dirty, it was the most amazing experience. And then the cathedral were so thrilled, they kept asking us to do it again year on year, and it's worked really well. And then Dunstable asked us to do the priory, and it's become something that it's a technique that none of us had even tried before. So it was thanks to Duncan really that we gave it a go.
And COAM, were very generous in giving us that site, and then they asked if we would like, as a group, as a Dacorum and Chiltern Potters group, would like to volunteer doing the Terrific Tuesday. So, well, it just happened. I think this is our 4th year, coming into our 4th year. So it's evolved really, and it's great. It's a great fun and brilliant for the children and families who come along, and I think it's an amazing event. I mean,
when John Rowe then used to they set up the Stan Roma competition, and John Roma used to come with his wife Caroline, have dinner with us, go to the guild and present the prize. The potter of the evening would decide which pot should win, and 1, 2 and 3, and then John Roma would present the prize.
Yeah.
But after a few years, I thought, well, I would like to take it on.
Yeah.
So
That became the Fitzwilliam
Yeah.
competition.
yes, and I loved this. I shouldn't say it really, but I loved this year's winner simply because it made me laugh.
Yeah, they were.
The whole thing about the guild and pottery has broadened my mind so much. I feel I'm embedded in pottery and the guild without actually being a potter.
That's a nice thing.
I think the Guild is doing exactly what Murray wanted it to do.
Yeah.
You're doing your own thing. You're providing a wonderful programme of excellent people to come and demonstrate and give their knowledge to people who wouldn't perhaps normally be able to get to them.
Yeah.
And that's what Murray found that the education people had no interest in at all. Showing excellence, the best it can be, to give them something to strive for and look to. And he did, when he was there, he found excellent people in all various fields, and that's what you're doing now, and I think it's fantastic. And